Putin just signed an order that could shut down European manufacturing within 6 weeks. Not a military strike, not a cyber attack. A single signature on a document that cuts off something most people never think about. But every factory, every electronics manufacturer, every solar panel producer needs it to survive. The decree was published at exactly 3:47 a.m. Moscow time. 34 pages of legal language that boil down to 3 words. Silver exports banned, not restricted, not limited, banned. To all countries on Russia's unfriendly nations list. Which means 40% of Europe's silver supply just vanished overnight. This isn't about sanctions anymore. This is about survival. Industrial survival, economic survival. And the clock is ticking louder than anyone in Brussels wants to admit. Let me show you exactly what Putin just did, and why European governments are in emergency sessions right now trying to figure out how to keep their economies running when the silver runs out. Russia produces approximately 200 tons of silver annually. That makes them the 4th largest silver producer in the world. But here's what makes this truly devastating. Russian silver doesn't just stay in Russia. It flows through carefully constructed supply chains that feed European industry. Polymetal, Petropavlovsk, Highland Gold. These Russian mining giants have been supplying European refineries for decades. 43% of Germany's silver imports come from Russia. 38% of Italy's, 51% of Poland's. Those supply lines just got severed. The first casualty reports are already coming in. A BMW electronics supplier in Munich received notification that their regular silver shipment has been indefinitely postponed. A solar panel manufacturer in the Netherlands got word that their Russian silver contract is under review by authorities. Under review means canceled. Everyone knows it. Nobody wants to say it. But here's where this goes from bad to catastrophic. European industry doesn't stockpile silver the way they stockpile other raw materials. Silver is expensive. It takes up warehouse space. It requires security. Most manufacturers operate on just-in-time inventory systems, which means European factories are carrying maybe 4 to 6 weeks of silver inventory. That's it. After that, production lines start shutting down. Volkswagen needs silver for electrical systems in every vehicle they produce. Without Russian supply, their inventory lasts 5 weeks. Siemens requires silver for industrial automation equipment. Their stockpiles cover 32 days of production. Bosch uses silver in automotive sensors and electronic components. They have 41 days of supply on hand. The math is simple and terrifying. When those stockpiles are depleted, production stops. When production stops, workers get laid off. When major manufacturers shut down, entire supply chains collapse. Putin didn't just ban silver exports. He started a countdown timer on European industrial capacity. Now, the immediate response from European officials has been predictable. We're exploring alternative supply sources. We're confident in our ability to adapt. This will have minimal long-term impact. That's political theater. The reality is far more grim. Global silver production is concentrated in just a handful of countries: Mexico, Peru, China, Russia. If you remove Russia from that list, you eliminate the only major producer that was actively selling to European buyers without geopolitical complications. Mexico's silver mostly goes to North America. Peru's production is increasingly tied up with Chinese buyers. China doesn't export silver to Europe in meaningful quantities. They import it. Which means Europe is left scrambling for scraps in a market that was already tight before Putin's decree. But there's something else happening that makes this crisis even more dangerous. Something that suggests this silver ban wasn't a reactive measure. It was planned, coordinated, prepared for months. Russian silver stockpiles have been growing since last summer. Satellite imagery shows expanded storage facilities at Polymetal's Magadan operation. Export data reveals that Russian silver shipments to China and India increased 43% over the past 6 months. Putin has been moving Russia's silver to friendly nations while continuing to supply Europe, building reserves in countries that won't join Western sanctions while maintaining the appearance of normal trade relationships. This wasn't an impulsive decision. This was preparation for economic warfare. And the timing is no coincidence. European manufacturing is entering peak production season. Solar panel demand is spiking as governments push renewable energy mandates. Electronics manufacturers are ramping up for the holiday shopping season. Automotive production is recovering from previous supply chain disruptions. Putin waited until European industry was most vulnerable, most dependent on steady silver supplies, and then he cut them off. The first round of panic buying has already started. German industrial buyers are calling silver dealers across Europe, trying to secure whatever inventory is available. Premiums for physical silver in European markets jumped 18% overnight. Delivery times that were 2 weeks are now 8 weeks, if you can get delivery at all. But here's the cruel mathematics of this situation. Even if European buyers could source replacement silver immediately, there isn't enough available. Russia's 200 tons of annual production can't just be replaced by snapping fingers and making phone calls. The global silver market produces about 26,000 tons annually. Russia represents 4.6% of that total. It sounds small until you realize that 4.6% is the difference between supply adequacy and supply crisis in a market that was already running a deficit. Industrial silver consumption has been outpacing mining production for 3 consecutive years. The market has been surviving on recycled silver and inventory drawdowns. Putin just removed the largest source of surplus supply from countries that were keeping European industry alive. European governments are starting to understand the scope of the problem. France's Ministry of Economy held an emergency meeting with industrial leaders yesterday. Germany's Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs is assessing supply chain vulnerabilities. The European Commission is preparing contingency measures. Contingency measures, that's diplomatic language for we have no idea what to do. Because the truth is, there are no quick fixes for a silver supply disruption of this magnitude. You can't just switch suppliers overnight when dealing with critical industrial inputs. New mining operations take years to develop. Recycling programs take months to scale up. Alternative supply agreements require negotiations that stretch for weeks. European industry has 6 weeks before stockpiles run low. Putin knows this. European officials know this. And everyone is pretending there's a solution that doesn't involve capitulation or economic collapse. The pressure is building in places most people never see. Automotive executives are in crisis meetings trying to figure out how to maintain production schedules without Russian silver. Solar panel manufacturers are calculating how long they can operate before shutdowns become inevitable. Electronics companies are looking at component redesigns that eliminate or reduce silver content. But here's the brutal reality. You cannot eliminate silver from most industrial applications. Silver has the highest electrical conductivity of any element. It has unique antimicrobial properties. It's essential for photovoltaic cells, automotive electronics, and medical devices. There are no substitutes for silver in critical applications. There are no workarounds. There are no alternative chemistries that provide equivalent performance, which means European manufacturers are facing a choice. Find silver elsewhere, or stop manufacturing products that require it. The ripple effects are already starting to show. Stock prices for European automotive companies dropped 3% in yesterday's trading. Solar panel manufacturers saw similar declines. Electronic stocks across the continent are showing weakness. Markets are starting to price in the reality that Putin's silver ban isn't a temporary disruption. It's a permanent restructuring of global supply chains. And there's another layer to this crisis that makes it even more insidious. Putin didn't just cut off Russian silver, he simultaneously increased silver shipments to China and other countries outside the Western sphere. This means Russian silver is still flowing. It's just not flowing to Europe. Putin is using silver as a geopolitical sorting mechanism, rewarding countries that maintain friendly relationships with Moscow while punishing those that don't. China, India, Turkey, Serbia. These countries are receiving increased Russian silver deliveries while European buyers get nothing. Putin is reinforcing geopolitical alliances through resource distribution. This strategy has precedent. Russia used natural gas exports the same way, creating energy dependencies that could be leveraged during political disputes. Now they're doing it with critical industrial materials. The message is clear. Align with Russian interests, get access to resources, oppose Russian policies, face supply cutoffs. European leaders are discovering that sanctions work both ways. While they restricted Russian access to Western technology and financial systems, Putin is restricting European access to Russian materials and resources. The question is, who can hold out longer? European industry operating without Russian silver, or Russian mining companies operating without Western buyers. The early indicators suggest Europe is more vulnerable. Russian silver can find buyers in China, India, and other non-aligned countries, but European manufacturers can't easily replace Russian silver supplies with alternatives from other regions. Putin calculated this asymmetry carefully. Russia's silver is fungible, it can be sold anywhere, but Europe's industrial base is location-specific and supply chain dependent. Factories can't be moved, production lines can't be instantly reconfigured, supplier relationships can't be rebuilt overnight. The silver ban hits Europe where they're weakest, in their complex, interdependent industrial systems that require steady inputs of critical materials. And the timing creates maximum pressure. European governments are already dealing with energy security issues related to natural gas supplies. Adding industrial material shortages to existing energy vulnerabilities creates compounding stress on economic stability. Putin isn't fighting one front of economic warfare. He's opening multiple fronts simultaneously, forcing European decision-makers to juggle escalating crises across different sectors. The silver shortage will intersect with energy costs, labor disputes, and inflation pressures to create a perfect storm of economic instability. Each crisis amplifies the others, making coordinated responses more difficult and effective solutions less likely. European industry leaders are starting to express private concerns that government officials won't acknowledge publicly. Production shutdowns are becoming a real possibility. Layoffs are being discussed. Contingency planning for extended supply disruptions is underway. But these conversations are happening behind closed doors because admitting the severity of the crisis would trigger market panic and social unrest. Instead, we get official statements about exploring alternative supply sources and maintaining confidence in European industrial resilience. Meanwhile, factory managers are calculating how many weeks they can continue operating before the silver runs out. The gap between public messaging and private reality is growing wider every day. Politicians can't admit the scope of the problem without appearing incompetent. Business leaders can't reveal their vulnerabilities without triggering stock price collapses. So everyone pretends the situation is manageable while quietly preparing for the worst, and Putin understands this dynamic perfectly. He knows that European leaders are trapped between acknowledging the crisis and maintaining public confidence. The longer they wait to take dramatic action, the fewer options they have. By the time European governments are ready to make significant concessions or policy changes, their industrial stockpiles will be nearly depleted, and their negotiating position will be desperate. Putin is creating a ticking clock scenario where every day of delay makes the eventual resolution more costly and more humiliating for European decision makers. The silver ban isn't just about trade policy. It's about forcing a moment of reckoning where European governments have to choose between their stated principles and their economic survival. And that moment is approximately 6 weeks away, when European stockpiles reach critical levels, when production shutdowns become imminent, when unemployment numbers start spiking. Public pressure for resolution will overwhelm political resistance to compromise. Putin is betting that European democracies can't sustain economic pain for as long as his autocracy can sustain reduced silver revenues. The countdown has started. Every day brings European industry closer to shutdown. Every week makes the eventual capitulation more inevitable. Unless something changes dramatically in the next 40 days, Putin's signature on a 34-page decree will accomplish what military threats and diplomatic pressure could not: the effective surrender of European economic independence. The silver embargo is revealing the true fragility of systems that seemed robust and stable, industrial supply chains that appeared secure or collapsing under pressure from a single supplier disruption. This is what economic vulnerability looks like in real time. Not gradual decline, but sudden systemic failure triggered by the loss of critical inputs that nobody thought to secure. European industry is discovering that global interdependence is also global vulnerability. When your production depends on materials from geopolitical opponents, your economic sovereignty exists only at their sufferance. Putin just revoked that sufferance. The question is what Europe will sacrifice to get it back.